It's Movie Time is produced by John DeSando. Listen to shows and read reviews online at wcbe.org.
I'm John DeSando. Wow. I'm really... Let me get this. Yeah. All right. I'm John DeSando.
And I'm Kevin Carr.
And this is It's Movie Time.
Yes.
And it's time for Korean movies.
It's time for Asian movies, really. There's a huge push of new Asian movies.
But I can count half a dozen of the Korean movies that have come out lately, starting last year with that big winner.
Well, yeah, of course you got Parasite.
Yeah, but anyway, we have here a little drama.
A little bit of a drama, yeah. And it's funny. It's one of those that people are trying to figure out how to categorize it.
It's called Minari.
Yes.
And that's a plant.
Yes, it's a vegetable that's used in Korean cooking, I believe.
Yeah, it thrives by water, which Grandma finds here a place for it to grow.
Yes. In
our little movie Minari.
Yeah. The story is you had this family that they're a Korean American family, and they've moved from, I forget where they moved from, but they moved to like Arkansas.
Yeah.
To start their own farm, and the father...
They were in California.
Were they in California?
Yeah.
Okay. And they start their own farm, and the father wants to basically grow Korean vegetables for a Korean market because he realizes that there's no direct sales anywhere nearby with that. So it's a great idea, but he's running into the struggles of just, good old... It's that struggles of the American farm, but it's told from the perspective of a Korean immigrant.
Well, there are probably many reasons, but one of the big ones would be, can you afford land in Arkansas? Yes. Can you afford it in California? No.
Yes. That's a huge reason they moved. And it takes place in, it's like the late 80s, I think.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah.
So it does have that, it's not a contemporary movie. But I mean, the struggles of the American farmer that's as old as movies itself. Yeah. And you're right, it's about whether you can afford the land, but also if you can afford to process the land, to irrigate the land, to get the water you need, which is a huge that's a huge sort of symbolic undertone in the movie is finding the water to run the farm.
I love Will Patton coming in with a stick.
Yeah. To
find the water. Is that real?
What,
divining rod?
Well, I don't know. It's hogwash, but I mean, you do have people that do it. I mean, and it's funny because there's a scene in there where the guy comes and literally, I mean, it's not like the Tom and Jerry cartoon where he gets a hashed stick and is drawn to it, but that's what people do. They do have water diviners, and they've been around, and they will do. This is where you dig, and it's like palm reading.
So, but Kev, it sounds pretty mild to me, the whole business. I mean, this film seems a little low-key.
It is very low-key.
There's conflict, of course, between husband and wife. You know, she's smart enough to know that this is living in this shotgun trailer. What do they call him? This is not heaven.
Well, I think it was interesting that you never saw their life beforehand. We don't have a basis of comparison, and that's what I find interesting because. They're immigrants, but I mean they've been in this country long enough. I don't know. And so you don't know what their history is. They've alluded to it here and there, but it's not like they lived. You don't know if they lived well or if they didn't live well.
Well, she seems to think they did okay. I mean,
well, sure,
because you can't be a millionaire chicken sexting.
No.
Kevin,
that's one of their jobs. Yes, to make ends meet.
They came from that. He was very good at it. So you pick up your chicks, you look at their butts, and you decide which is a male and a female.
Yep.
And
because males don't. Males are good for one thing. Yes. This is also about the world itself. It's not just about chickens.
It is.
But males are good for one thing, and then if you get too many male chicks, they just grind them up.
Well, they burn them up.
Well, yeah,
you see it coming from the stack.
Yep. I mean, chicken sexting. Look that up on the Wikipedia. It's horrifying when you really look at what goes on.
I know these poor people.
Yeah.
And she's slow, so she's better off actually in Arkansas.
Yeah.
But he's fast.
And the thing with it is it is a good idea, but it's when you're building anything from the ground up like that, it is tough. and they don't have like a huge support system. I think they allude to the fact that in California they had a whole Korean American support system, and a lot of times that happens with immigrants is they'll have a lot of people from the old country that you could get for support, but they didn't really have that in Arkansas. They're sort of completely on their own, and that's what it is. It's a struggle, and I found that was, I think, the most interesting part of the movie is that it took the struggle of the American farmer, and you're looking at it through a different lens, but it's the same story.
Yeah, and as in any good story, even though I said there was very little conflict, there is a change agent.
Yeah.
Who comes, and
Yep.
this is Grandma.
Yep.
And what a wonderful role for her.
She is very good. She is. Minari's getting a lot of buzz, and getting a lot of praise. But I'd say most of the praise should go to the grandma.
Oh, it is.
And the actress in that, she's wonderful.
And little David.
He's good. Yeah, no, I think he's good. But the grandma, I think.
But the two of them get to bond after a while.
Mm-hmm.
I like it that they don't get along right. He says she smells Korean. Isn't that? I love it. The honesty of kids.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
But Kevin, tell me, why should anybody want to see this film? I'm not sure we've made the case, and I would like to make the case.
Well, one of the things I've been saying, what I saw from this movie, and I saw where it fills a gap, and you started it off by saying there's a lot of Korean movies out there. I said there's a huge boom of movies with Asians in them, and they're telling a story that is not necessarily new.
Right.
And the obvious one is like Crazy Rich Asians. It's a love story between two people from different areas, cast of life. I mean, it's exactly the kind of love story we've seen. It's told with a predominantly Asian cast and characters, and you're seeing that a lot. There's a lot of these movies showing up that are, because inclusion's important, and it's not just white people who went through struggles making a farm.
Sure.
And I think that's I think the real catch is that there's universal themes that may be presented for another culture.
And I think that's so right. Not just because it's Korean, because there's not that much besides making the food that's right for Koreans. There's not that much that centers on Korean more than family.
Well, there's universal struggles.
Yes.
There's always universal struggles, but there's things about it that are very... I'm not Korean, but I imagine that if a Korean person who grew up with a Korean background or from Korea or like with immigrant parents, they'd say, "Oh, that's totally Korean. That's totally something that's exactly what my grandmother would say. That's exactly how my parents would behave." And it may be something that cultural we could associate with, but also there's stuff that's very different. Like there was this Pixar short about this little dumpling, and then this, and I knew people who were Asian who talked about it, and they said they got it more. I think it was called Bao, and they got it and they understood it more than your average just big dumb white American like me, and that's because it spoke to their culture, and even if it's just slightly different.
All right, Kevin. You know what? I think we need to go to a podcast.
Yes.
All right. I think there's more to say.
Absolutely.
The film is Minari.
Yes.
Kevin Carr, what grade do you award it?
As much as I've been talking it up, I wasn't a huge fan. I give it kind of a good solid B.
All right, good. And I give it an A-.
Okay.
I just love it. Family stuff.